So water levels, huh? They're pretty hated, all things considered. Whenever I have a conversation about water levels with people, I always hear about how badly people dislike them. However, I believe water levels are a lot better than people give them credit for. Welcome to a new series on my channel, where we talk about some of my favorite water levels in game series. Today's episode is about Maridia from Super Metroid and Sector 4 from Metroid Fusion. Without further ado, and without further prolonging, let's hop right into this. How about it? Super Metroid is not a game that I'm overly familiar with. I actually just finished it the other day on my Twitch account, despite getting pretty close to on other occasions. But what I do know is that it's a really good game. Now, I have been familiar with Maridia as an area for a long time. It's a place you go after getting the gravity suit, or before if you're crazy. Maridia is a very eerie area. Its two tracks are quite creepy and adds to the atmosphere. The lower part of Maridia is dark, and its music adds to the feeling of being in the depths of an ocean. Not necessarily because of the depths, but because of the enemies that are down there. You know, the lower you go in the actual ocean, the weirder the enemies are, and the same holds true with Maridia. This feeling is supported by the strange fish-like enemies that populate the area, and I love how air bubbles come out of the gravity suit. Small details like that are what make me like Maridia. This is also the place where Metroid show up, being super weak clones of the Metroid hatchling that Ripley stole at the beginning of the game. Yes, I call him Ripley. You'd understand that if you watched my Twitch. The level design of this stage is also really nice, although I really don't like the sand in this stage. Guys, help, I'm stuck. I don't like the sand. The three suit upgrades in this area are the Spring Ball, the Plasma Beam, and the Space Jump. Now, you can only get the Spring Ball before beating the boss, as the Space Jump is behind the boss and the Plasma Beam door is locked until you beat the boss. Now, one thing I don't really like is that the Spring Ball is so late in the game. Why would you put something like the ability to jump in ball form so close to the end of the game? Like, after this you only have Ridley's Lair. I even forgot that I had it. Not the biggest issue, but I feel like it should have been put somewhere else in the early game. I do really like the lab area where the sand is not as present. The tube shattering part is also really iconic. It's something I knew about before I even played the game when I was younger. Last thing I would like to touch on are the boss fights here. Between Batoon and Dragon. Batoon is very easy, like you could just sit in the corner and shoot him with super missiles until he dies, since from my experience he doesn't really come into the corners often. And Dragon was fun as well, but I didn't really experience the Dragon fight, to be fair, because I did the cheesy grapple beam kill. Oh, the turrets. Oh! Come on. Gotcha. We win. We win. Oh. Now I feel bad! Maridia is a fun water level, but Super Metroid is not the only Metroid game that we are covering today. Metroid Fusion was my first introduction to the Metroid series, and as such, I wouldn't know how different it was from other games in the series. The tone and gameplay is really different from other games. Fusion is a really linear, story-based game. and for the most part, the game is kind of a horror game, but we are here to talk about the water area of this game. But for that to happen, I need to talk about a small bit of context from the story, so spoilers for Metroid Fusion. Samus is at the BSL research station due to the X-parasites breaking loose and infecting several life forms on the research station. Sector 4 is the third sector Samus goes to in Metroid Fusion. Samus goes to Sector 4 due to a life form known as Ceres wrecking things. The top of Sector 4 is not a water level where you go into the water, but it's rather a water level that you want to avoid the water, as the water has been electrocuted. And not only do you have Metroid water physics at this point in the game, but you also take damage from being electrocuted while you're in it. The goal is to lower the water level so that the water is no longer electrified. But to do this, you have to locate the speed booster upgrade, which is held by the boss of Sector 4, known as Ceres. You navigate the broken parts of Sector 4 until you reach the tank that Adam pointed Samus to, only to find a big skeleton, the X of God and Ceres. The next room over, you reach a tank with eerie music playing. Once you reach the middle platform, you are sneak attacked by Ceres. The boss isn't all that difficult, to be honest, but the boss is really loud. Afterwards, you get the speed booster, which you use to get into the control room to lower the water level, and that's the end of it, right? Well, Fusion is a very story-based game. Sometimes you go back to sectors later in the game, Sector 4 being one of them. So later in the game, Samus has to go back to Sector 5 again due to a creature known as Nightmare being used by the X-parasites to wreck Sector 5. Long and short, you have to go into Sector 5 to kill Nightmare, and as such you receive the gravity suit, which allows you to use the speed booster to break from Sector 5 and go into Sector 4. The bottom of Sector 4. Now, the lower half of Sector 4 has really nice design. It's a fish tank, and while it's not as much of a level compared to Maridia, or Upper Sector 4 even, what makes me like it a lot more than either of them is the atmosphere and the music. The only goal in Lower Sector 4 is to escape Lower Sector 4, which you do by finding the red security door room to unlock the exit door. Now, the last thing I want to show before I end this section is the music that plays in both parts of Sector 4. Upper Sector 4 has a low, dangerous tone to it. It sounds a bit anxiety-inducing, but I also like the weird whoom sound that plays in the background of the song. Now, Lower Sector 4's theme really sells the depths of the ocean itself, the mysteriousness of it, and how eerie it can be. Honestly, the music of this sector is why I like it better than Maridia, and if Maridia had this music, I probably would have liked Maridia better. There's even this part of the song that calls back to the Super Metroid opening theme. Overall, these two water levels are a good example of good water levels, in my opinion, and the reason I chose them for the first episode of this series is my overall familiarity with Metroid. I think they do a good job of being fun levels with water theming. My overall consensus is that Metroid Fusion Sector 4 does better with the music and the atmosphere, and Super Metroid's Maridia is the better level in terms of gameplay. Metroid Fusion has always been my favorite Metroid game, and so I will always prefer Sector 4 over Maridia. But that's due to my own bias. That's probably why I didn't spend all too much time on the music in Maridia, as I didn't have as much to say about it as I did compared to Sector 4 and Fusion. As always, thanks for watching. If you like Metroid games, then you should totally check out my Twitch account. I play a lot of Metroid there. I do randomizers of Fusion and Zero Mission really often, and I'm learning more about Super Metroid, so one day I'll definitely start doing randomizers of Super Metroid too. I'll definitely start doing randomizers of Super Metroid as well. So I do hope you'll come and check out. So I do